Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, wherever you are in the cosmos today. I hope you're having a great one. Before we get started today, I am going to pull a card from the Pocket Animal Spirit deck here. See if we can get a quick message for the collective here today in relation to the next chapter that we've gotten around to. Freya, Polly, Michael, Mary, please be here with me now and allow me to see. Allow me to see a message in alignment with the greatest and highest good of the collective, balanced with that of the collective at large. Please and thank you, thank you, thank you. I got the camel. I think I'm actually gonna read the guidebook for this one because I don't know that I have a particular personal relationship with it yet. So it looks like, let's see if I can figure that out. Is it a fire card? I always mix up those symbols here. I believe the pyramid is the fire. Right. Okay. Well, what a funny collection. Hyena, fire ant, scorpion, panther, lizard, tarantula. They're like all kinds of different animals, but they all kind of have cheetah, tiger, cobra, lion. Like, they create responses in people and animals around them. I don't know about the camel though. This is interesting. Let's see what it says. So we have camel, resourceful, independent, knows oneself. The camel can handle absolutely anything as it carries a wealth of nourishment within. This wondrous creature is self-reliant and handles challenge with ease, even in the face of excess heat, meaning judgment or anger. The camel searches inside for the cool elixir of water to calm the situation. The camel represents the ultimate form of bringing opposites into balance, fire and water, and being responsible for one's own reactions. The camel is a wonderful traveler and is especially fond of trips to faraway lands. Wow, yeah, exactly. So it's like the camel, because it carries on its back, I believe it's fat or something, right? But I mean, they're able to self-hydrate. And they're able to take responsibility for the needs that they're obviously going to have existing in the desert. And it says, when in balance, calm, content, sparkle in the eye. Sparkle in the eye. It's like, have you ever seen somebody that's like really dehydrated in a place like the desert, or like maybe there's like substances involved or something, but it's like they're really dehydrated and you look in their eyes and they're like real shiny because it's like concentrated. This morning I got an eyelash in my eye and I kid you not, I had to try and pick it out for like 4 or 5 minutes straight and it just would not come off of my eye. And it was just horrific. Like, not what you want, very irritating. But I was just like, wow, I have this real nice protective layer here on my eye. And I'm so grateful that even though I have to like, it's like literally pulling the log out of my own eye. I was like, I could just leave it there. I wouldn't have to keep stabbing myself in the face with my finger. I could just not deal with this. I could just ignore it. I could just act like it doesn't exist. But no, it's gonna stay there. It's gonna harm you, and especially if it's in your eye, it's gonna harm everybody else because it's impairing your perception, which is extremely important. So when out of balance, dehydrated lacks vitality. So this is about you taking responsibility for your vitality and for balancing your like anger and judgment energy with those cooler, calmer, more flowing emotions and finding this balance. And it says to bring into balance a pilgrimage. So take that how you will. A pilgrimage, the camel. And today we're going to be reading the next chapter from the book Anastasia, which is book 1 in the 10 book series of the Ringing Cedars of Russia series. And I think we only have like 5 chapters left. So thank you for being here so far. This one's called Chapter 24, A Strange Girl. The summer before, our convoy ship had docked at one of the villages not far from these parts. We needed to buy bulk meat for the restaurant and spend some time in port. 60 kilometers farther on there would be a particularly dangerous section of the river, which meant our ship could not travel through there at night. Certain sections of the river were not equipped with navigation lights. So as not to waste time, we began announcing over our outdoor loudspeaker system as well as the local radio that we were throwing a party that evening aboard our vessel. The sleek white ship standing at the dock, glistening with a huge array of lights and alive with the music pouring forth from it, inevitably attracted the young people of the village to such occasions. Indeed, on this particular evening, practically the entire local youth population could be seen making its way to the ship's gangplank. Upon coming aboard, like any first-time visitors, they immediately set about taking a look around the whole ship to see what they could see. After touring the main, middle, and upper decks, they ended up congregating in the restaurant and bar. The female contingent, as a rule, took to dancing, while the male half preferred drinking. The unusual circumstance of being on a ship, plus the music and alcohol, always engendered a state of excitement, occasionally making big trouble for the crew. Almost always, there was not enough time, and the partygoers made a collective appeal to extend the festivities just a bit longer, say by half an hour, and then more and more into the night. On this particular occasion, I was alone in my cabin. I could hear the music wafting up from the restaurant as I was trying to make modifications to the convoy's schedule for the remainder of the trip. All at once, I felt myself being stared at. I turned around and glimpsed her eyes on the other side of the window glass. That was nothing unusual. Visitors often liked looking into the ship's cabins. I got up and opened the window. She didn't go away. She continued looking at me with some embarrassment. I felt I wanted to do something for this woman standing alone on the deck just outside my cabin. I wondered why she wasn't dancing like the others. Perhaps she was somehow unhappy? I offered to show her around the ship, and she silently nodded. I took her all over the ship, showed her the main office, which frequently impressed visitors with its elegant appointments, the rug covering the floor, the soft leather furniture, the computers. Then I invited her into my cabin, which consisted of a study cum sleeping quarters and a carpeted reception room equipped with fine furniture, TV, and VCR. I was probably most delighted at the time to impress a poor country girl with the achievements of our civilized world. I opened in front of her a box of candies, poured 2 glasses of champagne, and thinking to add the finishing touches to the impression, put on a videotape of Vika Siganova's single Love and Death, Lyubov i Smert. The videotape included a number of other songs performed by my favorite artists. She lightly touched the champagne glass to her lips, looked intently at me, and asked, "A challenge, eh?" I expected just about any kind of question except that one. The expedition had indeed turned out to be quite a challenge. What with the difficult navigation conditions on the river and the crew, mainly students from the Marine Academy, smoking pot and pilfering merchandise from the store, we were frequently behind schedule and couldn't get to our planned stops on time where our arrival had been advertised in advance. These burdens and other worries often deprived me of the opportunity not only to admire the landscape along the river, but even to get a normal sleep. I muttered something meaningless to her, something like, "Never mind, we'll get through," then turned towards the window and polished off my glass of champagne. We went on talking about this, that, or the other, listening to the videotape in the background. We talked right up until the ship docked once more at the end of the party cruise. Then I escorted her to the gangplank. Upon returning to my cabin, I made a mental note. There was something very strange and unusual about this woman, and I was left with an unexpected feeling of lightness and brightness after talking with her. That night I had my first good sleep in many days. At long last I understood why. The woman on the ship had been Anastasia. "So that was you, Anastasia?" "Yes, I was there, in your cabin." "It was there, in your cabin, that I memorized all the songs, which I later sang to you in the forest. They were playing while we were talking. You see how simple it all is." "How did you happen to come on aboard?" "I was interested in seeing what was going on, how you all lived. After all, Vladimir, I had been spending my whole time just taking care of dachniks. That day I had hurried to the village, sold the dried mushrooms which the squirrels had collected, and bought a ticket to your party cruise. Now I know a lot more about the class of people you call entrepreneurs, and I know you pretty well too." "I feel I owe you a huge apology. I did not know how things would turn out, that I would be so drastically altering your future. Only I can no longer do anything about it, since they have seen to the fulfillment of this plan, and they are answerable only to God. For a time now, you and your family will have great difficulties and challenges to overcome, but then that will all pass." Still not understanding what Anastasia was specifically talking about, I intuitively felt that something was about to unfold itself to me that would go way beyond the usual parameters of our existence, something directly concerning me. I asked Anastasia to tell me in more detail what she meant by altering my destiny and challenges. Listening to her at the time, I simply could not imagine how accurately her predictions would soon come to be realized in real life. She continued her recounting, once more bringing me back to events of the past year. "Back then on the ship," she said, "you showed me everything, even your cabin, treated me to candies, offered me champagne, and then escorted me to the gangplank. But I did not leave the riverbank right away. I stood on the shore near some bushes, and I could see through the lighted windows of the bar how the young people of the village were still dancing and having a good time. You showed me everything, but you did not take me to the bar. I guessed why. I was not appropriately dressed. My head was covered in a shawl, my cardigan was not stylish, my skirt was too long. But I could take off the shawl. My cardigan was neat and clean, and I had pressed my skirt carefully with my hands before I came to see you." It was true. I had not taken Anastasia to the bar that evening, precisely on account of her rather strange clothes, beneath which, as it was now clear, this young girl had been hiding her remarkable beauty, something that immediately set her apart from everyone else. And I said to her, Anastasia, why would you have wanted to go to the bar? Do you mean you would have gone dancing there in your galoshes? Anyway, how would you know what dances young people do today? I was not wearing galoshes at the time. When I exchanged my mushrooms for money to buy a ticket to your ship, I also bought a pair of shoes from that same woman. Granted, they were old shoes and were tight on me, but I cleaned them with grass. As for dancing, all I would need is a one-time look, and that would be it. And what a dancer I would be. You were, I suppose, offended at me that night. I was not offended, but if you had taken me to the bar, I do not know whether that would have been a good or a bad move. But events might have turned out differently, and all this might not have happened. But I do not now regret that events happened the way that they did. So what happened? What happened that night that was so terrible? After you escorted me off the ship, you did not return right away to your cabin. First, you dropped in to see the captain, and then the two of you headed for the bar. For you, that was a normal thing to do. The moment you entered, you both made an impression on the public. The captain looked prim and proper in his uniform. You were very elegant and gave a most respectable appearance. You were known to many in this village, the famous Maigret, the owner of a convoy of ships unique in these parts, and you fully realized that you were making an impression. You sat down at a table with 3 young country girls. They were all only 18 years old, just out of school. The waiters immediately brought champagne, candies, and new wine glasses to your table, prettier than the ones that were there before. You took one of the girls by the hand, bent over, and started whispering something in her ear. Compliments, I understand they are called. Then you danced with her several times, and the conversation continued. The girl's eyes were radiant, as if she were in another world, a fairy tale world. You took the girl out on a deck and gave her a tour of the ship, just as you had me. You took her into your cabin and treated her to champagne and candies, just like me. But there was something a little different in the way you behaved with this young girl. You were in a cheerful mood. With me, you were serious and even morose, but with her, you were cheerful. I could see all that very well through the lighted window of your cabin, and possibly I felt a little as though I wanted to be there in the place of that girl. You don't mean to tell me you were jealous, Anastasia? I do not know. It was somehow an unfamiliar feeling for me. I recalled that evening and these young country girls who were trying so hard to look older and more modern. The next morning, Captain Senchencho and I once again had a laugh at their nighttime antics on the dock. The night before, in my cabin, I realized that this girl was in such a state that she was ready to go to any lengths, but I didn't have any thoughts about wanting to possess her. I told Anastasia about this, and she replied, "Still, you had stolen her heart. The two of you went out on the deck. It was drizzling, and you threw your jacket over the girl's shoulders. Then you took her back to the bar." "What were you doing, Anastasia, standing the whole time in the bushes in the rain?" "That was nothing. The drizzle was good and caressing, only it interfered with my view, and I did not want my skirt and shawl to get wet. They were my mother's. My mother left them to me. But I was very lucky. I found a cellophane bag on the shore. I took off my skirt and shawl, put them in the bag, and hid it under my cardigan." "Anastasia, if you didn't go home and it started to rain, you should have come back to the ship." "I could not have done that. You had already seen me off, and you had other concerns. Besides, everything was shutting down." When the party came to an end and the ship was due to depart, at the girl's request, especially the girl who was with you in your cabin, you delayed the departure. At that point, everything was in your power, including their hearts, and you were intoxicated with this power. The young people of the village were grateful to the girls, and the girls too felt imbued with a sense of power through you. They completely forgot about the young lads who were with them in the bar, guys they had been friends with in school. You and the captain escorted them to the gangplank. Then you went back to your cabin. The captain went up to the bridge, and then the signal sounded, and the ship slowly, very slowly began to pull away from the dock. The girl you had danced with stood on the shore beside her girlfriends and the young people who had waited around to see the ship off. Her heart was beating so strongly, it was almost trying to leap out of her chest and fly away. Her thoughts and feelings were all mixed up. Behind her back could be seen the outlines of the village houses with their darkened windows, while in front of her, the sleek white steamship was departing forever, illuminated with a host of lights, still abundantly pouring forth its music across the water and the nighttime riverbank. The sleek white ship was where you were, after saying so many marvelous things to her she had never heard before, so charming and alluring. And all that was slowly distancing itself from her forever. Then she decided to do something in the sight of everyone. She squeezed her fingers into a fist and began shouting desperately, "I love you, Vladimir!" And she did it again and again. Did you hear her shouting? Yes, I replied. You could not help hearing her, and members of your crew heard her too. Some of them went out on the deck and began laughing at the girl. I did not want them to laugh at the girl. Then they stopped laughing, as if they had suddenly come to their senses. But you did not come out on the deck, and the ship continued slowly moving away. She thought you could not hear her, and she continued stubbornly crying out, "I love you, Vladimir!" Then some of her girlfriends joined in, and they all cried out together. I wondered what the feeling was like. Love, which makes people lose control of themselves. Or perhaps I wanted to help that girl, and so I shouted with them, "I love you, Vladimir!" It seemed as though I had forgotten at that moment that it was not enough just to simply utter words. There definitely had to be behind them feelings and awareness and trustworthiness of natural information. Now I know how strong that feeling is, and it is hardly subject to reason. The country girl later began to go into a slump and take to the bottle, and it was a challenge for me to help her. Now she is married and burdened down with everyday cares, and I have had to add her love to mine. The story of the girl threw me a little off balance. Anastasia's account managed to resurrect that evening in my memory in full detail, and everything had really happened just as she said. It was very real. Anastasia's unique declaration of love did not make any impression on me. After seeing her lifestyle and getting to know how she looked at the world, I saw her more and more as some unreal personage, even though here she was sitting right beside me, and all I had to do was reach out my hand and touch her. A consciousness accustomed to judge things by other criteria could not accept her as an existing reality. And while at the beginning of our encounter I had been attracted to her, she no longer aroused in me the emotions I once had. I asked, "So you think these new feelings appeared in you just by chance?" "They are desirable. They are important," replied Anastasia. "They are pleasant even. But I wanted you to love me too. I realized that once you got to know me and my world a little more closely, you would not be able to accept me as a normal person, as simply man. Perhaps you would even be afraid of me occasionally. And that is exactly what has happened. I myself am to blame. I have made many mistakes. I was anxious for some reason all the time. I was in a hurry, and I did not have the time to explain everything to you as I should. Perhaps it all just turned out silly, eh? Do I need to reform myself? And with those words, her lips hinted at a sad smile. She touched her chest with her hand, and I at once remembered what had happened that morning when I was in the glade with Anastasia. The camel. There may be some energy particular to like romantic love here for a lot of you. The camel is about balancing fire and water. Romantic love can be a lot about balancing fire and water. When you put fire and water together, you get steam. It's very hard to see through the steam, but it's healing and it's good. I don't know exactly what that means for all of y'all here today, because I think it'll be quite different for each of you, and I think you know what that's about. The next chapter is called Bugs, and it's excellent. It's probably one of my favorite chapters of the entire series, and I did actually do a reading of it on my Instagram a while ago, maybe a year or two ago. I may link that somewhere, but if you feel the urge to go track it down for yourselves, you can go ahead and get like a little preview of the next chapter if you're just itching, if we left you on a cliffhanger and everything. But I will be back to read that chapter shortly. I don't think it's a very long one. Let's see. Yeah, literally 3 pages, 2.5 pages. So I'll probably be doing that very, very soon. I have been in a void the last few days. I went and got some real therapeutic massage therapy to work on some of the issues that I've been dealing with for a long time. And that was 72 hours ago or something. And I'm still barely getting to the point of like being able to form sentences and move my body. And I mean, I did show up for work a little bit here and there, but I did not clean my house. I did not do all the things. I did sit in the void, and I was forced to sit and feel my feelings and not be particularly productive externally, visibly. And that reminds me of how this channel started last year in January, I believe. I twisted my ankle and re-injured my right foot, as I have many times throughout my life, but I was forced to sit still, to take time off of work, to stop focusing on the money and the exercise and the like external stuff in my life. And when I was forced to sit, that is when I connected with my guides and was directed to finally get this channel started, which I had begun years ago, but I just didn't feel like the right time, and then it was. So sometimes if you don't take the time out to create that void space and to sit in silence and to sit with your feelings and to get in that dark space, then you will be forced to, and you will be humbled. And so would you like to be in control of how that goes down, or would you like the universe to kind of force it into your life? I don't think there's anything particularly better or worse or right or wrong about one or the other, but it is just kind of the nature of how things work in my experience. I've got 30:30 on the clock. Love, light, peace, and personal responsibility. I hope you'll have a beautiful day, and I will see you next time.